think you guys probably know I'm a retired high school principal, a basketball coach at Stephen Decatur. I've been on the park board for 18 years. Trying to extend that this time. I went to Eastern and got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree at Illinois. Came out of there and Uncle Sam called me, and I visited with him for a couple of years, and then took a job in Decatur, and I've been here ever since. My wife is a graduate of Decatur High School. We've been married 55 years, and I've served on the Visitors Convention Bureau Board. I drive our church bus at Grace Methodist Church, do a variety of things like that. I have a little brother in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. For the last 7 years, I had this same young man, and I'm wanting to be reelected to help carry out some of the things we have started, like the lakefront project with the city, and I'd emphasize that's a cooperative effort between the two organizations. Would love to see that finished. Like to see the bike path at from Fairview Park out to Greendale Park finished. It's well underway and should be finished this summer. And with all of that, I would like to maintain a fiscal responsibility that we don't spend more than we take in. Unlike some of the governmental agencies where they're having trouble paying their bills, I don't agree with that philosophy. So that kind of, I think, summarizes where we are.
Okay, Mr. Clark.
I'm Tony Clark, and I'm wanting to run for the park board to try to bring back some of the things that used to be the things that the park stood for, or the park board stood for. That I want to bring back the neighborhood parks, bring the maintenance back up to where the parks are the standard that used to be set. In the 40s, there was a movie done on the Decatur Park Board on what an excellent park board was used and how it operated. It was for other regions to set up park boards. The park board has done major things in Decatur, and they're a great organization, and I think Decatur is better because of them. I am retired from the plumbers and pipe fitters. One time I was a jewelry salesman, and I've had numerous other jobs. I attended Illinois State, and I'm on a construction board with the city. I would like to see the neighborhood parks rebuilt, and I would like to stop any housing developments in the parks. I find no recreational viability from someone living in the park. The taxpayers of the park have operated these parks to maintain recreational spaces. Some people during one of the meetings called it a waste of time. All you had to do is mow the grass, and grass is a wonderful thing, especially when you run out of it. I'm wanting to run for the park board to change the direction a little bit. I have nothing against any development that is recreationally based. The bike path around the basin between Scoville and the zoo and Nelson Park Basin is a wonderful thing. I think there's lots of people that use that now, but it's unsafe, and it needs to be a safety factor. I'd also like to maintain the road through the park open, because there's thousands of people that drive it a day, and if there's a train on the tracks, it's a safety as well as a security factor. So that's basically me.
That kind of leads to our next question, Mr. Clark. You can start. Is what about the lakefront development plan that's been developed? Is kind of a long-range plan, I guess. Go into a little more detail about what aspects of that you would, both of you would support, and what aspects of it that you wouldn't support.
Well, like I said, I won't support people living in the parks. I don't understand, or I don't think it'd be right. People go down to Nelson Park to watch the fireworks and watch it over somebody's private residence. I think parks are for park and recreational experiences, not as economic development. The city, the people in the city that pay the taxes, pay their taxes for opportunity for recreational purposes, not to subsidize somebody building a house in one of their parks or two of their parks. The things that are down there that they're considering for recreation, I like some of those. I'm not for disc golf. Disc golf at one time was out at Fairview Park, and that's now a dog park due to lack of people using it. I'd like to see the money put into things that people do use. The outdoor pool facility would be great, but I don't think it should be the third phase or one of the final phases. I think that with the first $8.5 million that the people in the city ought to be able to swim at the park. The bike path, walk path around the lake is a wonderful thing. But I'd like to see the road through there maintained. That's the last vestige that you may drive along the lake at a nice leisurely pace and enjoy the view of the lake and the surrounding area.
Mr. Kenny?
Review that question for me again, would you?
Well, what aspects, I guess, of the lakefront plan do you support, or if there's any that you don't support?
Well, as you know, that's a project between the Park District and the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seldom that we've been able to get a project in the community that the community would support and the city and the Park District could work together on, and I'm exceedingly pleased about that. There's not much about it that I don't like. I think the biggest challenge for us is going to be able to finance it. And one of the ways to help finance that is to have condos built near the lake in Chandler Park. And we can't sell that to a private developer, but we can lease it for 50 years. And the income from those condos would help support the other projects in the parks. You know, everything from the docks to the walking trails, paths. You have seen, I think, what's proposed, and frankly, there's not anything in there that I take great issue with. Insofar as closing the Nelson Park Drive, I don't know that that's an absolute, but I would expect that probably to happen. It's been proposed, but nothing has been finally adopted. And I think it's currently a safety hazard for people who walk in the park. And for that reason, if none other, it may have to be closed. There are other ways to get out to ADM where most of that traffic is going. I think that pretty well summarizes my position. I just can't find a lot to say negative about it.
One of the issues obviously facing the park district and all governments are a declining tax base, or at least a stagnant tax base on a good day, and how to deal with limited resources and maintain the level of service. So what would be your approach to that? Is it to raise taxes? Is it to try to, you know, be more efficient, cut services? Just give us your views on how you would as a park commissioner deal with, you know, kind of a declining amount of revenue and a growing number of expenses. You know, Mr. Kenny, you go first.
Well, the Park District, or the Park Board, has been working for 2 or 3 years pretty vigorously at this, trying to keep our expenses down and our income consistent. And if it means reducing some of the programs or some of our staff, so be it. I'm a real advocate in not raising our taxes. The other thing is to try to find other sources of revenue, whether it's increasing our fees, like in golf or any of the other fee producing areas, like the disc, and trying to make those more self-sufficient. But I think we need to make every effort to keep our tax rates where they are.
Mr. Clark?
I would like to see the fees held down, and I'd like to see the expenses reduced. The development on the lake for the Decatur Lakefront Development or Nelson Park Lakefront Development, they're looking at selling $8.5 million in bonds to cover the first part of it. The bonds that they sold for Rotary Park and the disc aren't retired yet. There's lots and lots of expansion through capital development that is continually going on. I think reducing the pace of the capital development would be a good thing. It would cut costs. And I think if they went back and maintained the neighborhood parks, which are what most of the taxpayers are paying their money for, if you make a good park system, people will come to it. At one time, they talked about using the parks to draw people to the parks or to Decatur. Well, during the period I'm talking about, my daughter played softball for Eisenhower High School. And the coach had to go to, and they used Lions Park as their home park. Mm-hmm. And the coach would have to go out and mow the grass, and the benches were broke. If the opposing players or anybody had to use the bathroom, they had to go to Dairy Queen, which is about 3 blocks away. And the water at the fountain rarely worked. These kind of maintenance issues are things that need to be corrected. I talked to Cindy Diedrich Wolfer, and I told her that one Sunday I was walking through Nelson Park and I couldn't find a public restroom to use. And I talked to Bill at the office, and he said that's up to the officers. But when I talked to Cindy, it was after the damage had been done in the bathroom there at the park. She said, "Do you know what it costs to replace that? Do you know what our maintenance is?" And she said, "We don't have," or I was told they don't have money for maintenance, but they have money for capital development. Well, if you develop less, you'll have more money for maintenance, and you can take care of what you have as opposed to cutting your services.
So just so we understand your position, you would delay you would delay the waterfront, the lakefront project in order to put more money into maintenance of neighborhood parks?
Not necessarily delay the whole thing, just slow it down. You don't have to do all of that development at one time. You can take care of the things that the city and the people in it will get the best use out of. I was told that, or they said at one of the meetings, that the new docks that they build will help pay for everything that comes along behind it. Okay, use the money that's generated from that and cover the next phase, but wait till you have enough money, or at least the bonds from that you already have outstanding, some of them retired. And I'd like to see the pool reopened, or else the outdoor water park opened up, because if you're going to put $8.5 million into a development and you're not going to have a place to swim on the lake, I find that wrong.
So you would slow it down?
I would slow the pace down, and I would put the needs of the people in the city ahead of the making it a coming attraction, on the hope that we could draw people from outside the city in, give the taxpayers their money's worth first. And if you develop a good system, other people will come and see it.